I'm 82 years old, and the quiet in my house now is louder than anything I ever lived through. I tell myself I'm used to it. At this age, people disappear. They die. They move away. They stop calling. You learn to expect empty chairs, but this quiet is different. This one has a voice in it, and it's his. I didn't lose my best friend in an accident. I didn't lose him to some dramatic betrayal. I lost him slowly over years because I never learned how to listen when it mattered. I'm telling this now because there isn't much time left for me to tell anything. And because if I'm honest, I don't need forgiveness anymore. I just need to say it out loud while I still can. I sit in the same chair every morning, the one by the window. My knees don't like stairs anymore, so I don't go upstairs unless I have to. I drink coffee that's gone cold before I remember it's there. I watch people walk dogs I don't recognize. New families, new lives. Sometimes I catch myself thinking I should call them. Then I remember. We were friends for over 40 years. That's longer than some marriages last, longer than some people stay alive. We met in our early 30s. I was newly married, trying to prove something to the world. He had just moved to town for work, knew nobody. We worked in the same building, different departments, same lunchroom. He laughed loud. I remember that. Not the kind of laugh that tries to impress. The kind that slips out before you can stop it. We started eating lunch together because the seats were empty, then because it felt normal, then because it felt wrong not to. I don't remember deciding he was my best friend. That kind of thing never announces itself. It just becomes true one day when you realize he's the person you call without thinking. Back then, life felt busy but manageable. Work was demanding. Kids were young. Bills came regularly like clockwork. I thought I was doing everything right. Providing. Showing up physically even when I was tired. Listening wasn't something I thought about. I assumed being there was enough. He talked more than I did. That's important. He would tell stories about his parents, about the small disappointments that followed him around. I nodded a lot. I smiled. I offered advice when I thought it might help. I was good at advice. Quick answers, clean solutions. What I wasn't good at was sitting still inside someone else's words. When he talked about being tired, I told him to take a vacation. When he talked about his marriage feeling strained, I reminded him that all marriages go through phases. I didn't think I was dismissing him. I thought I was being helpful. There's a difference. I know that now. Years passed that way. Decades, really. We raised kids. We changed jobs. We complained about our backs and laughed about getting older. On the surface, nothing was wrong. That's what makes this harder to accept. The damage didn't come from one moment. It came from 1,000 small ones I barely noticed. Times when he paused mid-sentence, waiting. Times when his voice softened, like he was testing whether it was safe to keep going. I filled those spaces with my own thoughts, my own stories, my own certainty. I told myself he knew I cared. After all, I showed up. I answered the phone. I was there when he needed help moving, fixing, building. But I didn't hear him when he needed to be heard. There were signs, clear ones, if I'm honest. He stopped calling as often. Our conversation stayed shallow. I thought that was just age. Everyone gets quieter, I told myself. One afternoon, years ago now, we sat on his porch, late summer. The air smelled like cut grass. He said, "Sometimes I feel invisible." I remember that sentence because I brushed past it like it was nothing. I said something about how everyone feels that way sometimes. I laughed a little. I changed the subject. I don't remember what I said next, but I remember his face. It didn't look angry. It looked tired. That was a turning point. Not because something dramatic happened, but because something stopped happening. He stopped trying. When people talk about losing someone, they imagine a door slamming shut. This was more like a door left open until it quietly swung closed on its own. Life kept moving. It always does. My wife passed away before he did. That loss hollowed me out in ways I didn't expect. He was there for me then. He listened, really listened. He didn't fix anything. He didn't rush me. He let my words stumble and circle and repeat. I remember thinking how comforting that felt. And somehow, even then, I didn't connect the dots. That's one of the cruel things about time. Clarity often arrives too late to be useful. A few years after that, he got sick. Nothing sudden. Just one diagnosis stacked on another. We talked less. I assumed he needed rest, space. I didn't want to burden him with conversation. I didn't realize that conversation might have been what he wanted most. The last time we spoke properly was on the phone. I remember because I almost didn't answer. My hand hovered over the phone longer than it should have. I was tired. It had been a long day of doing very little. He asked how I was. I gave the usual answer. Then there was a pause. He said, "I don't think I did a very good job being hurt in my life. I wish I could tell you I responded perfectly. I didn't. I said something about how he was respected, how people cared about him, how he mattered. Those things were true, but they weren't what he was saying. He wasn't asking for reassurance. He was offering me his truth, and I talked right over it. We said goodbye. I told him we'd talk again soon. We didn't. He died 3 months later. The funeral was small, quiet, the kind of gathering where people speak softly and leave early. I stood there listening to others talk about him, things I hadn't known, feelings he'd shared with them but not with me. Or maybe he had shared them, and I just hadn't listened. That realization settled into me slowly, like cold. After everyone left, I sat alone in my car. I didn't cry right away. I just sat there, staring at the steering wheel, thinking about all the words I'd interrupted, all the moments I'd redirected. I thought about how many times he'd reached out, not for solutions, but for space. I thought about how confident I'd been that there would always be more time. There are things you can't fix once they're gone. You can't go back and let someone finish a sentence. You can't sit beside them and say, "Tell me again." I'm listening now. People talk about closure. I don't know what that means. What I know is that some losses stay open, not bleeding, just quietly present. I still talk to him sometimes, not out loud, just in my head. I imagine telling him I finally understand, that I see how lonely it must have felt to speak and not be met. I imagine him listening, because that's who he was. Then I remember, it doesn't matter what I imagine. What mattered was what I did when he was here. And I didn't do enough. If you're listening to this and you still have people in your life, I won't tell you what to do. I'll just tell you what I wish I'd known. Listening isn't waiting for your turn to speak. It isn't offering comfort wrapped in advice. Sometimes it's just staying quiet long enough for someone to feel safe continuing. Sometimes it's letting their words sit without trying to improve them. I thought I was being strong by having answers. I didn't realize strength could look like stillness. I thought being needed meant being useful. I didn't understand that being present was often enough. I don't have many friends left now. Most are gone. Some drifted away. That's the natural shape of old age. What hurts is knowing one of the emptiest spaces didn't have to be empty. I still wake up some mornings thinking about calling him. Habit doesn't disappear just because a person does. Then the quiet reminds me. I accept it. I live with it. That's what you do at the end of things. You carry what you can't change. If this meant something to you, if it stirred anything you recognize, you don't owe me anything. Just don't assume there will be more time. That's all. I used to think time was patient. I know better now. And now, at 82, with more past than future, I sit here and listen to the quiet. It has a lot to say.